What's up, guys? Max here with another episode of the ScuttleButt Show, and I am joined today by a great man. He is a Marine. He's a stand-up comic based out of Los Angeles, California, Mitch Burrows. Mitch, what's going on?
Hey, man, not much. Thanks for having me on. It's cool doing a show with the Marine where they don't say a former Marine or something like that. You know, it's good to hear someone talk that fucking gets it.
I try to get it with Marines because, you know, I do a lot of shows with I actually do a lot of shows with guys who were Navy SEALs, and you say former Navy SEAL, retired Navy SEAL, but you don't say former Marine. You say Marine.
No, that's the thing, man. I tell people every time I meet them, they're like, "Oh, you were a Marine," and I'm like, "Hey, once a Marine, always a Marine, no matter how fat you get once you get
out." I tell people, like, when they ask me about myself, I'm always like, but I'm a fucking sailor, dude. I'm a sailor straight away. Everything, I embody everything about the Navy. I might not be in the Navy anymore. I was in the Navy. I'm former Navy, but I try to still embody everything that I believe it means to be a fucking sailor.
What was your rate?
My rate was AT. I actually worked on helicopters also. So,
okay, yeah.
And you were a helicopter mechanic, right?
Yeah, I worked on CH-46s, but my mom was a legalman, and my stepdad was a machinist mate, and a machinery repairman. I think he was like an MR, and he got out as a chief or a senior chief, and my mom got out as a chief.
That's awesome.
My mom and I, like, these are the fun shows for me because I could say this and someone could be like, "That's fucking crazy." My mom and I deployed to Iraq in the same carrier group.
No way.
She was on the aircraft carrier. I was on an LHD, but it was all for I think it was the USS Truman or the USS Roosevelt. I can't remember which one, but it was out in Norfolk. And so they came and picked us up in North Carolina. And it was dope because I had friends in our admin shop that had one of those ship phones. And so I could go into the admin shop and be like, "Hey, let me call my mom." And then I could just call my mom on the other ship over there and just be like, "Hey, what's up, Mom?" And she'd be like, "Everything okay?" I'd be like, "Well, I'm fucking in the middle of this ocean with you." And then once we got into the Gulf there, and then we went into Kuwait and Iraq, then I didn't have any contact with her for a while. But yeah, while we were under deployment on the ship, we were like able to talk to each other.
That is insane. It's that's so funny. I can think of like so many shit talking possibilities with that. Like, what are you gonna do, Mitch?
My
Call
mom
your
fucked
mom?
me up. Dude, she fucked me up, and not even intentionally.
That's how
like,
moms do it.
She would send me care packages, but she's just shopping at the ship store. So I would get a package, and I'd open it up, and it'd be like those socks with the gold tips on them, and like the same kind of candy that we had in our ship store, and maybe like a Christina Aguilera CD. And then my friends would be like, "Dude, are you sending yourself care packages to make it look like your mom is? If you want to buy a Christina Aguilera CD, just buy the CD." And I was like, "No, dude, she's right there. She's right over there. I promise."
That's odd. That's so funny, dude. That is.
And then I approached my mom. I'm like, "Mom, why are you sending me Christina Aguilera CDs?" And she's like, "Well, I just don't want to send you anything with a parental advisory sticker on it." And I'm like, "I'm about to go to war. I can hear some cuss words. Send me that 50 Cent, Get Rich or Die Trying. I don't want this bullshit."
Dude, that's so funny. You know, I've heard of like father-son, like being in the military at the same time, or like in some kind of similar like command or like sister command or whatever unit. But mother-son, I don't think I've ever heard of mother-son in at the same time, deployed at the same time. That's amazing.
Yeah, it was pretty exciting. I mean, my mom joined when I was about 4 years old, and then she got out a couple years after I got out. I did my 5 years within her entire career.
Wow. Dude, that's so crazy.
I wish she would have just been more like she should have just told me to stay in more. I had bad influences in the Marine Corps. Like most people who were good Marines ended up getting out of the Marine Corps. So I was just like, I don't want to stay in with the rest of these fucking shitbirds. But like my mom had said that they had a real good experience with the Navy, and I just wish they would have been like, no, just push it out a little bit more, because I'd be retired now. Like my life would be fucking great. Instead, I got this fake wood backdrop behind me, just trying to do a podcast.
Hey, really quick, just so that people listening know, you starred on Mandatory Fun on Vet TV. You were one of the comics on that show. And
that's right, yeah.
And I was just gonna, so before I start referencing all your, I've already referenced a couple of your jokes, but yeah, I was just gonna talk about your joke where you talk about you were deployed with hundreds of Marines personally. You would support about 7.
yeah, and 3 of those still owe me money. So yeah, I mean, it's just one of those things where people are like, hey, you got to support the troops. And I'm like, nah, you don't. I don't really care. I don't think a lot of the troops really care, honestly.
I think you just got to, what I tell people is like, you just got to understand that every veteran has potential for greatness. Doesn't mean every veteran is. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, I think just by joining the military, you stepped up and did something really amazing. But then there are shitbags in the military. There are like drug dealers. There are gang members. There are rapists. There are murderers.
Dude, I got investigated by NCIS my first year in Okinawa, Japan, because apparently my roommate in the barracks was a fucking drug dealer.
Dude, there's always like a barracks drug dealer, like selling mushrooms and acid and shit.
Yeah, this one was all weed because we were in Okinawa. You could buy mushrooms out in town when I lived in Okinawa. They sold them at the stores. I mean, we weren't allowed to use them.
Yeah.
I mean, we did, but they were like, don't do mushrooms. It's illegal. But in Japan, it was perfectly legal. So like we would do it every now and then. But like this dude was like selling marijuana, which was like highly illegal in Japan at that time. So yeah, it was fucked up.
I'm not sure what the deal is right now, but when you do your in-doc brief in Okinawa right now, they tell you about all these like head shops you can't go to. Like, don't go to Dirty Buds. Don't go to Jay's Chronics. That sounds like they sell weed there, I think, maybe.
Yeah, I wonder what the legality is now, because a lot of places are like, man, they tricked us in the 50s. This stuff's fine.
Yeah, I need to look at it. Well, as a dependent, it'd be cool if I could smoke weed. But I can't because I'm SOFA. So like no SOFA status person can use any illegal, what the like military's determined illegal substances.
What does SOFA stand for?
That's the status of forces agreement. So like, we have like a status of forces with Mexico. We have a status of forces with Japan, which means like if you fuck up, the U.S. government has some leverage to like represent you, as opposed to like you go to Iran, right? And then you get picked up there. There's no like SOFA, so you're just like, you can stay in prison there forever, and there's nothing they can do.
So you got out, but your wife stayed in?
Well, I met my wife out of the Navy, and so we got married. She was in the Navy. She's a doctor, and so we met and we got married, and she got stationed out here, so I came out here with her.
So she wears the dungarees in the family.
She's the boot wearing, she got a big dip in. Nah, she yeah, she wears.
I mean, that was who worked on helicopters. I don't know if that's the same for the doctors.
Yeah, it's not the same, dude. It's not the same. It's a different world. It's funny because I'll be at like I'm not as culturally or intellectually sophisticated as her and her friends. So we're out to dinner once, and the question, like, people start talking about Hemingway novels, and it's going around the table, and I know inevitably it's going to get to me, and they go, Max, what's your favorite Hemingway novel? And I'm like, I think the book ruins the movie. I try not to read too much. Are you guys hungry? Waiter, we're ready to order our food. So I'm a hooligan compared to my wife's coworkers.
Yeah,
which is cool. So you okay?
Hey, sometimes it's good to be the dummy in the relationship. I don't expect too much out of you.
I live down to it. You know how people say like they live up to like expectations? I live down to mine.
Yeah, your wife's like, hey, whatever, as long as you As long as you, what's the right way to say this? Eat good pussy. You can be an idiot all you want to.
I'll leave that one. No comment. So you did 5 years in the Marine Corps working on helicopters. You get out of the Marine Corps, and somewhere along the way, now you're doing comedy. How long have you been doing comedy?
I've been doing comedy for 12 years now. I've been a comedian longer than I was active duty in the Marine Corps. I just was, I was telling stories about like going to Thailand and stuff like that, and people were laughing. And at the time, I had been just listening to a lot of stand-up on satellite radio, and I just got the structure down. And so once I realized that I had the beats figured out, I was like, let me just try it. So I went and did an open mic and did really good on the first one and just got hooked. And I was terrible for a long time after that. It took a while to like really hone it in. But yeah, I mean, I've been doing it for 12 years now, and it's the only thing that ever made me feel as good as when I was in the Marine Corps.
Wow, that's a powerful statement.
Yeah, I mean, because there's a sense of, when I left the Corps, there was a sense of camaraderie that vanished. You know, there's something about, especially like when you're stationed in Okinawa, Japan, away from your families. Like, we were brothers, we were a family, and all that went away. And then once I got into comedy, I guess it was about 5 years after I got out of the Marine Corps. Once I got into that community, once again I was like, okay, this is like a kind of like a brotherhood, like a group of people who are experiencing something that no one else is.
Yeah, that's true. You know what's great about it is you take people from all walks of life, from all, not only in every part, nook and cranny of America, but from other countries and territories too. And then you take them all, you turn them into fucking savage Marines, and then you let them loose in Japan, you know, as young men and women. And it's just the time of your life, man. It really is. I totally get it. It's it was awesome. I mean, I will always say that the 3 years I spent in Okinawa were the best 3 years of my life, for sure. Well, I hope, you know, I understand what you mean, and I hope you know, you get some at least comparable years, you know, in your life remaining, because you know, I like to say that, like, in the show, in the ScuttleButt Show, what I like to tell people is, you know, the military, I think too, like, the time I spent in the military was the best years of my life, but it's not going to be the last good years of my life. You know what I mean? I like to look back on the military as like, it made me who I am, so I can go crush it for the rest of my life going forward. And I'll carry that with me and carry those memories as like the greatest, most badass years of my life, the things that I got to do and places I got to go and people I got to meet. But I'm not going to like look solemnly into the future, saying it's never going to be that good again. I'm going to take those best years in the military and make them the best part of the next great years of my life, you know?
Yeah, I just say, like, so, like, growing up, my grandfather retired Army, my mom was in the Navy, and I spent a lot of time with her and my stepdad. I had this very, like, romantic view of the military, and it was kind of like the thing that I always wanted to do. So having joined the Marine Corps at 18 and having done that, by the time I was 23, I had already lived my dream. So then anything else after that has always been extra. That's why I left a very successful job with Boeing to pursue comedy full time, because I didn't care so much about money and success in terms of that. I was like, I want to feel something. And the way and doing comedy and going on the road and just taking that risk and being like, fuck it, I'm going full speed with this and moving to LA. Now I'm just doing extra shit to feel something, because I already did the main thing. That one's done. So now everything else is just bonus material.
You know what I think is for myself with that is, I look at, like, if the only thing I ever did in my life was the stuff I did in the Navy, I would know that I lived my life in a way that I would feel honorably about and proud of, and that would be good enough for me, you know? But it's funny too, because then I tell people, I'm like, I used to think I would go full bore in the Navy because that was the most important thing, and that's the only thing I care about, and I'm willing to make sacrifices elsewhere, like health, like physical health, like wreck my body in the Navy, because as long as I do a good job in the Navy, nothing else matters. But now I've been out of the Navy for a few years, and my body's fucked up, and I'm like, I shouldn't have been so quick with that one. Maybe I shouldn't have been so quick with that one.
You worked on helicopters. What'd you work on?
I worked on 60s.
Okay.
So,
yeah, I was on 46s, which was like, I was like the last of a dying breed.
Yeah.
They got rid of them once I got out. And then I was lucky enough, my first civilian job was working on the V-22.
Oh, wow.
So I did that for a while. I got to experience working on that for a while, even after I got out of the Marine Corps. So, I mean, I think aviation, even though the Marine Corps, they shit on it, you know, it's always like, yo, you're just swinging with the wing and stuff like that. That was definitely one of the best jobs I could have picked, because I got to fly on helicopters a lot. I got to pull up a CH-46 in a hover after fixing it when we were in Iraq. I mean, you know, there was just cool shit that I got to do. And it wasn't fucking easy. I mean, we were working 12-hour shifts, 6 days a week, 7 days a week if we were on the ship. It was definitely an experience that I'll never forget.
Yeah, working on so just a quick background on myself for I think it's probably always good to do this once in a while for people listening. I did so almost 14 years in the Navy, and I did 8 years as working on helicopters. I went and did a deployment in Afghanistan doing detainee ops. So I worked at the prison over there on Bagram Air Force Base in Afghanistan.
Wow, that one?
Yep.
I saw that picture. I thought you looked familiar.
Yeah. Well, I wasn't the dude who like murdered the taxi cab driver or anything like that, or stacking
Well, isn't that
up.
the one where they had them standing on the boxes with the bags on their head?
That was I don't know if that was there or Guantanamo Bay, because there was pictures from I'm not sure which
Iraq,
picture.
Right?
Afghanistan.
Oh, okay.
Oh, Iraq. Iraq was like Abu Ghraib or whatever.
Abu Ghraib. Yeah.
So yeah, some shit went down. So Afghanistan wasn't all, rosy or anything, but Iraq had some pretty bad stuff come out about them. Afghanistan,
a little bit.
Low key, people don't know. There's a documentary called Taxi Cab to the Dark Side about how at that prison a few years before I was there, they tortured a cab driver to death.
Shit.
And there's some horrible pictures of this dude strung up on like a cage with a bag over his head, arms tied behind his back, and he was innocent. He was like a wrongly picked up, suspected but wrongly picked up taxi cab driver, and it was Marines there. So they banned Marines from working in the prison, and they would never let Marines back in. But if people were ever acting up bad, you could always say, we're going to bring the Marines back, and then they would be like, okay.
Oh, they were like, no, thank you.
Yeah. So
I added it to my watch list. As soon as you said it, I was like, I got to see this shit.
Yeah, check it out.
Yeah, my one of my cousins, he was the Army, and he was a MP, so he dealt with a lot of shit like that in the Army. Yeah, man, I wouldn't want to have to deal with like the policing of shit, or having to do like prisoner watch or anything like that. That's too much.
It was.
I was happy just turning wrenches.
It was the hardest job I ever did in the Navy, I'll tell you that. And that's including after that, I went back and I found a special programs thing, and I went and I flew drones with Naval Special Warfare and did a couple more deployments to Iraq and Afghanistan. So that's what I did right before I got out. And so I was always in AT. My rate was always AT or helicopter, avionics. And then I got out and worked in that sector for a little while as a civilian.
What does an enlisted personnel do with drones?
So there's small ones, right? Like small ones that we actually fly.
Okay.
So one person flies them, and then we would deploy with I deployed with Army Green Berets once, and then with a SEAL team another time, and we would go fly our drones and find and support.
And so
missions.
those are just doing reconnaissance.
Yep.
So they're like, all right, enlisted, you can take pictures, but we're gonna save the bomb dropping for the officers.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, I mean that's fine. I feel like enlisted would have more fun dropping bombs.
Might drop too many. Drop them too quick.
Well, and then you can always just say, well, it was just some dumb E3.
Yeah, I'm just an E5. Like, how was I supposed to know?
You know, like that's how you get away with it. You have officers fucking up, and then it's like, well, this guy had a college degree, so he should have known better.
Yeah. Yep. No, I'll take the Article 15 for accidentally releasing that 500-pound bomb, I guess.
Man, that seems like a minor slap on the wrist.
I'll take the 45. So we were just before this, we were just talking about how coronavirus for all the active duty or veterans are like, hey, we just all got hit with a 60/60, half month's pay times 2.
Yeah. Yeah, man, it's an interesting thing. I live in Los Angeles, so we've been like half like shut off. You know, like there was no like lockdown as far as like how far you can go outside of your home. They were just like, hey, it's best to stay at home. And then they closed down bars and shit, but all the grocery stores were open, and there was really nothing keeping you from going over to your friend's house or anything like that. For a while they had beaches and stuff closed, but I mean, the best thing about it was if you did go somewhere, the freeway was finally like clear, you know, like that. It wasn't hard to travel anywhere.
Now the freeways are full of people because they're out there, all the protests.
That was the thing that was going on for a little while, but like the news isn't covering it anymore because no one's rioting. Yeah. Like there's still protests every single day, but the news is like, oh, this isn't exciting. So they're not showing the movement that people are like would want people to see. Yeah. Yep. Exactly. Right. Because it's not so sensational. So you're up there in LA. You've been kind of in the middle of a big city during this whole thing, and you work at the Comedy Store in LA, right? Yeah, I work at the Comedy Store in Hollywood. And you've been there for a couple of years? Yeah, I've been there for about a year and a half, 2 years. Okay. But I've been doing comedy and hanging around since I moved to LA 5 years ago. There was just a time where I wasn't focusing on it, and then basically I broke up with my girlfriend, and I was like, I got to get in at the Comedy Store. So I just like made a hard push for that. Yeah. Then I was just feeling a void at the time. Well, that's always like a life-altering event is when a big relationship ends. So I could see like that'll either make you do one of two things, which is like dig in deep in a hole and, you know, bury yourself, or get out there and go do something like to get out of the house and go do something big, a big push in the other direction. Yeah, I mean, luckily for me, when we were dating, we were living together, and I would go on the road 2 weekends a month or 3 weekends a month. And then when I was back, I wasn't like going to the clubs in LA. So then once we broke up, I was like, man, why the fuck did I move to LA if I'm not going to the club? I realized I just wasted 2 years of my time. So I just pushed like really hard in LA after that. I was like, I'm going out to the clubs every single night. And that's what you got to do. You got to like grind it out. You got to treat it like a job. That's right. That so you tend to drink at every night. Yeah. So I've heard everyone who does anything like, you know, YouTube, podcast, stand up, whatever it is, if it's gig work, you have to treat it like a full-time job. You don't treat it like a gig job. You know, you put in the hours, you prepare. Even before you make it to that point, you have to treat it like that, you know? I mean, like, so TikTok, for example, my phone got stolen 2 days ago, and I just got a replacement, so I missed like 3 days. But once I like started focusing on making videos on TikTok, I made a point to make like 2 videos a day for that platform. And then it just like started steamrolling and getting more and more views. So whether it's writing or acting or sing or whatever, you have to, if it's something that you're pursuing, you have a day job, you got to look at it as another equally important job and dedicate a certain amount of time to that every single day. Yep. And that's the only way you're going to be successful at it. Yep. What's your TikTok, man? What's your TikTok handle? All of my social media is just my name, Mitch Burrow, MITCHBURROW. It's the same whether it's Instagram or TikTok or whatever. How do you make a TikTok? You just hold the phone up in front of your face, say some stupid shit, and then hit send. There's like different. I know that sounds simple. to be fair, there's different styles of TikTok. There are people who take movie quotes and lip sync over them. There are the dancers who just have songs, and then they like choreograph these stupid dances so that everyone's doing the same. And then there's people like me. I made a video making fun of women who carry crystals around with them. You know, like, and then they charge them on the windowsill. So I was doing this thing kind of making fun of astrology and stuff like that. And then somebody was like, "Oh, we would love to hear more. Can you do some horoscope readings?" And then I just went full in on the horoscopes, and you know, it kind of blew up from there.
Somebody left a comment on your thing saying they wanted to hear horoscopes.
They left a comment, and I was like, all right, I'll do redneck horoscope readings. So I just started reading horoscopes, but trying to put like a redneck spin on it, where it was like, you know, Aquarius, you need to take care of yourself. Maybe, you know, go fishing, spend the day at Bass Pro Shop or whatever. And then people just kind of like, hey, this guy's fucking a redneck, but he gets horoscopes. You know, it's so easy to fool them, I guess.
Dude, that's so funny. I'm going to check that. So here's what I'm going to do is, like, right now in the video, I'm going to play some of your TikToks. So people will have seen, and I will have seen some TikToks at that point.
Capricorns, are you constantly thinking about things that you haven't finished yet? Look, Pisces, you know what's cool? Aquarius. See, this is when shit starts getting crazy. You start getting, this lady really got nerve to say I look like John Wayne Gacy. Are you Sagittarius? Look, I get it. Scorpios, right now you're like a toddler when everybody jangles a little shiny set of keys in front of them. Right, you're getting so focused on pretty things that you can buy that you're losing focus on the stuff that matters.
The redneck horoscope sounds so funny. You're from Georgia?
Yeah, I grew up in the woods. I mean, I had a house, but it was like way out in the country. But it was about 30 minutes outside of Athens, Georgia, where the University of Georgia is.
And I you know, when I listen to your comedy, when I listen to Mandatory Fun, you kind of lean on that identity, which is, you know, which is like when you make it fun. Like, there's nothing like Southern humor, man. All my Southern buddies in the military. It was always when we would go out in San Diego or whatever on deployment, dude. It was so funny, dude. I remember one time on deployment, we had my buddy from Kansas, you know, deep, you know, Southern boy. We're walking around, and my other buddy was Filipino, was talking to him, and they didn't really know each other that well. They had only met a couple weeks earlier, and he goes, the Filipino guy says to the Southern dude, he goes, "You people like NASCAR, right?" He's like, "What do you mean, you people?" And they had like this whole like, you know, reverse, like it was like a reverse of what you would normally expect type thing.
Yeah.
It's like, well, yeah, fuck yeah, I love NASCAR.
Hey man, I watched the NASCAR race today.
What was that? Which one was that? I heard some shit went down there with one of the drivers in like a racism event that like left a noose in his garage.
Today was the Talladega 500. It's the fastest track in NASCAR, so it's a pretty big race. And Bubba Wallace is a black driver in NASCAR, and someone left a noose in his garage. And so there was a big thing that came out about that. And then all the drivers, to show solidarity, they pushed his car out to the front today before the race started, and they stood behind him during the national anthem. And then, you know, they were just showing their support for him. And NASCAR is actually making a big push to kind of get away from any kind of racist stereotypes. They've banned the Confederate flag, which I heard all the bases have done the same thing as well. Banning a display of the Confederate flag at the NASCAR events. And then they have these commercials that are like this close to saying Black Lives Matter. Like they're not doing it, but they're saying shit like, we're in this together. Change can come through all of us together. Like we are, like talking about making progress. And it's just like they almost did it. You know, they almost fucking committed and was like Black Lives Matter, but they were like, we can't quite go that far. And it's like you almost did it, you know. But I think it's great that NASCAR is making the steps to be more progressive and inclusive, because you're never going to get fans if half of the people there are waving Confederate flags around. It's going to be divisive. So I think it's great that they're making these steps to be like, look, we're not a bunch of fucking dumb hillbillies. You know, the engineering that goes into building a NASCAR is in an insane level of technology. Like, this is real shit. And I think if more people watch it, my black friend here watched it today, and he was like, "Don't tell anybody I'm watching." But man, that race was insane, because it ended on like a 12-car wreck.
Oh
shit! The
shit!
guy that got third finished backwards. So it was. I was like, "See," and he was like, "Yeah, that was pretty crazy. That was pretty dope."
I've seen all this stuff about how it's like, man, leave it to NASCAR to be the most progressive sport. Like, who would have expected that? But, you know, NASCAR is like, if I don't know that much about NASCAR, but if I think about it, it's like a big deal when the first woman drives NASCAR. It's a big deal when there's a black driver. But you know what? You know what's fucking a racist sport? Hockey. Hockey's a fucking borderline, like, straight up racist sport where you got like a black player who gets attacked in every game or something like that, you know? And
yeah, I never watched a lot of hockey, but it's definitely like, you can be like, there's 5 guys on the ice. Well, they're all white. I'm gonna put money on it.
Yeah,
you know, like
yeah.
It's not that diverse of a sport. So.
Yeah, I always consider NASCAR like it's not so diverse in its athletes, but I never really considered it like having a racist problem. Maybe am I wrong? Like, was there ever a history of racism in NASCAR?
I mean, the thing is, I understand there's a lot of people who would fly the Confederate battle flag and say that they're not racist, but you're not taking into account how that makes people feel.
Yeah.
You know, so it's not that they're necessarily excluding minorities from the events, but I mean, if you were a black person and you went to a NASCAR race and you saw hundreds of Confederate flags flying, would you go, "Yeah, this is the sport for me"? Or would you go, "Man, these fucking assholes, I don't want to be around this"?
Yeah.
You know, you sometimes got to think outside of yourself, you know, and I grew up in the South. And I'll be honest, that flag looks cool as shit. It's a cool design, but you gotta realize that when you look at the history of it, first of all, it was scarcely used in the Civil War. So even if you're one of these people that's talking about heritage versus hate, it didn't even really get used then. It was brought in the 1960s, like during the Jim Crow era and civil rights movement, and they were using it to protest desegregation. So it's like, really, that's what that flag's history is. And you don't necessarily have to be proud of everything in your history. You know, like, I have a GED. That motherfucker ain't framed and hanging over the fireplace. Mainly because I have a GED, so I have never made enough money to have a fireplace at this point in my life, I guess.
That's hysterical. Yeah, I get what you're saying. Like, I think that's a really good perspective on it. You talked about it in your stand-up on Vet TV too. You know, racial equality, gender equality, you know, LGBTQ rights. Is that true? You have a gay sister?
Yeah, it is.
I think it's great.
But yeah, she did good for herself. She's very attractive. She was in the Army. She did fucking jump school. So she was with the 82nd Airborne. She was a little badass lesbian chick. You know, they were really into that. But then she went to war, and then when she came back, she started banging a dude for a little while. And I was like, man, war really does fucking change people. You know, it's tough. But she's back now. She settled down with a lady. She's doing that again.
Okay. Glad she's happy.
Yeah. They got a house and a Rottweiler. Just the perfect lesbian relationship.
You talked about how do you write jokes?
I mean, if I'm being a good person, I will wake up in the morning and I will sit down and I will write just 3 pages of randomness in my notebook. It's from a thing called The Artist's Way, and they just talk about writing your morning pages. You just sit there, and it's just free thought. You just sit down and write. Then any idea that I have for a joke, it normally just comes from riding around by myself. Maybe I'm out 4-wheeling in my Jeep, and I'm just letting my brain roll, and something will come in my head. So then I'll make a note of it, and then I'll sit down and just kind of like try and write out the different angles from which that is funny. It's not just good enough to say that something is funny. You have to describe what makes that funny and try and come at it from different angles. I feel like some comics try and take pride in saying that they don't write, that they create on stage. But if that's how you're doing it, I genuinely feel like you're doing yourself a disservice. Bill Burr is unique because he has his Monday morning podcast. And I think he does it twice a week. So he's talking in this free flow kind of thought. And then people are able to he's able to take notes from his podcast to then generate bits out of. So that's kind of his writing style. But I think for the most part, sitting down and physically writing will not hurt you by any means. It can only improve your writing and your joke telling methods. So I try to do that. I'm lazy, so I let myself down a lot of times. But when I'm trying to act as professionally as possible and not drinking too much the night before, I like to just try to write for a little while every day.
I think that's really good. I try to write. We're actually starting stand up out here in Okinawa, which I've never been. I've done it a few times. I've done improv comedy. I've performed improv comedy, but we're actually starting a stand up open mic night out here with at a place over by Gate 2 in Kadena, or outside of Kadena Air Force Base. And I'm gonna try my hand at some stand up.
Gate 2 Street.
Yep.
I remember it well. Jack
Yep.
Nasty's First Chance, Last Chance.
Oh yeah. Yep.
I mean, that was where we spent all of our time out there. And then of course there was like a block over, some guys would go to another alley over there. But I never did that. BC Street, I think, was one place over there, right?
I don't know BC Street.
There's a place called Whisper Alley. And do they still have the Banana Show? Is that lady still putting on a performance every night?
I don't know. So I need to go out there and hit that street and party. I've only walked down it like as a tourist, never going in and like actually experiencing the nightlife out there. But
wow.
Yeah, and I've been here like a year, but it's my wife and I, we don't really go out and do that kind of scene too much, but we now that we've kind of been over there a couple times walking around, we're like, well, we need to go hit it one day. At least one day, go kind of do everything. Really, the night of debauchery,
I don't know if you need to do everything there with your wife, but I used to go down to this place in Naha called The Stage. That was a wild one. They had a rotating stage, and it was kind of like a strip club, but it was more like a brothel, I guess, in a way. But then, like at the end of the night, when it was over, they would announce, like, okay, now is the time that one of you lucky guys gets to come up on stage, and someone would have sex with one of the girls on the stage as it rotated in front of everybody in there watching.
What?
And I remember, yeah, dude, I love how you like are this innocent guy that's like, what? Really? Yes, it's fucking 4 miles down the road, dude. You live right next to it. So when they announced it that night, my buddy like jumped up onto the stage and was like, me, I'm gonna do it. And the guy yelled at him. He was like, no, you don't wear your shoes on the stage. And I was like, oh, this is a classy place where you fuck in front of everybody. You gotta take your shoes off. So then he removed his shoes and they let him get up on stage. And then, I mean, oh man, poor guy. There was like the everyone was there watching, and he had a little performance anxiety. But this chick, she like went down on him for a little while to like make it happen, and then he finally did. And then we go celebrate. We go to another. There's a dance club called the Slums that we went to, and we're hanging out there dancing and drinking. And then I swear to God, that girl walked in with a dude and started like making out with him, and I was like, "Yo, that's that chick that you just fucked in front of everybody with her boyfriend here now." And that guy was just like, "Hey man, that's her job, you know, like don't talk about my girlfriend like that." And I was just like, "Okay, dude." Like, and he was definitely in the military. I think he was probably Air Force though.
Dude, I wouldn't call myself innocent, but I don't know what goes down out here in Okinawa. I will say that. And that sounds crazy. Like the stuff that I've seen in like other countries, in like Guam at strip clubs, in the Philippines at strip clubs, is pretty nuts. But I've actually never seen someone get up there and bang on stage.
Yeah, I mean, I went to Thailand. I went to Thailand twice. Thailand was crazy. That was a fucking pretty wild experience. I went to the Philippines. That was wild. I mean, I definitely lived a life where if I ever like settle down, I'm gonna have to have some secrets. You know, like it's just the way it's got to be.
Yeah, I mean, that's quite a like. I'm just picturing in Naha out here in Okinawa. I'm trying to like think if that could still possibly be a thing. I don't know. I guess I'm ignorant. I don't know.
Google Maps.
What, the stage?
Let me see. I bet I can find it.
Look,
the stage.
If that's a place, I'm gonna post a picture of it up on this podcast.
Police club employed sex slaves. Okay, it might be closed down by now.
Yeah, that sounds like a human trafficking type thing, basically. Except for like if you then saw her afterwards with her boyfriend and they were like, "Oh, it's just her job." That doesn't sound like a sex slave type thing. I don't know what to think about that. I guess there's like people who would do that by choice, but it almost sounds like it would be like a human trafficking coercion type thing environment.
Okay, the name of the place was Naha Music.
Really?
Yep, and if you Google that, you'll see some. There's even a Reddit thread where had sex on stage, everybody clapped.
Jeez.
And it's just this guy talking about his experience there at that club. And like people are like, "Yo, did that really happen?" There's no way that happened. And it's like, yeah, this is a true story that this guy is telling, because I mean, I've been to an event like this, you know, like I mean, I saw it and it was interesting.
I can't believe the shit that goes down. Hey, if you're listening and you're out there and you find yourself in that kind of situation, look around and really think like, is this legit or is this like something that I would feel bad about later, I guess. Because because you know, those types of things can be super sketchy, man. There's all kinds of stuff like that where the girls are like imprisoned, basically, you know?
Yeah, I mean, you know, when you're here's what I'll say. When you're 19 years old and you lived on a dirt road your whole life and now you're in a foreign country, this is not something that you've ever thought of in your life. I mean, my friends loved going to the buy me drinky bars. And those were predominantly staffed by young Filipino women. So was that something similar to what you're saying? Maybe, but like we had no idea about that. We were boys,
right? You know,
right. I personally didn't like those places because I didn't like paying $9 for a girl to drink a shot of pineapple juice. That didn't seem very fun to me. But yeah, I mean, there's definitely a negative side to it. But they don't educate the young guys about that part of it, you know?
Well, so I guess what do I think about that? So like the education that is done in such a way that like, you know, what to look out for. At least in my experience, they tell you what to look out for. They tell you like about these places, but they don't tell you how you find yourself inside of them. You know what I mean? Like you're in this situation before you even realize it. Like you're just walking around. You think you're walking into a normal place. Then a girl comes up and you think it's just a normal girl talking to you. And then she's like, well, are you taking me home or whatever? And you're like, wait, are you like working? Like what's going on here? You know? And
you don't want to say that. That's insulting, especially if they're not.
Yeah, I know, right?
You just got to have more confidence in yourself.
Well, it's weird, man. It's like it's a very uncomfortable thing. I never liked it. So, like in the Philippines, you go into a bar and then all of a sudden you realize or like in Las Vegas, you'll be in Las Vegas on the strip and you'll be talking to a girl and then all of a sudden she'll be like, it's $200 for an hour. And you're like, what? I didn't know you. I didn't even. That's when
I go, oh, I'm sorry. I was charging you this whole time. You owe me $50 for the last 20 minutes you wasted of my time.
Yeah, this conversation ain't free.
Yeah. Sorry.
Man, it's a weird thing, dude. So, how do we even get on that? How do we even get on like
you said that you were going to open a open mic on Gate 2 Street, and it just led me down a whole path of all the debaucherous shit I did when I was in Okinawa.
Yeah, so we're going to start a little open. So if anybody in Okinawa is listening, we're going to start an open mic thing and see. Apparently, there's a pretty good community of active duty or veterans out here who want to do comedy. So we'll have like an open mic thing going on. So when you do, you write a joke and then you go to like open mics and practice jokes? Like, do you do like rehearsal nights in preparation for big nights?
Yeah, there are clubs where they have like a more less high stakes kind of show, and that one like I feel comfortable doing stuff. I'm not really going to bars so much and doing those kind of open mics, but I am like going out on certain nights where it's specifically like that's the goal, is to work on new material. At the Comedy Store, we have a Monday night potluck show that we do, and I use that kind of as my trying material out kind of night.
Okay. Do you ever have like a stage fright issue?
No. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I guess depending on like certain shows, there could be higher stakes or something like that, and then I might feel a little more nervous before I go up. Just like, oh, this is an important show, so I need to make sure that I do a good job. But I don't ever get stage fright. I don't know that I ever got stage fright, really. I just always enjoyed the performance aspect of it, you know?
That's good. You're lucky. I feel like I also don't have a stage fright issue, but that's rare. Like that's usually the minority of people have, are okay with public speaking and getting up there and being in front of people. I like it. I like being up in front of people, which is definitely on the unusual side, because most people talk about like the greatest fear in their life is public speaking.
Yeah, I think Seinfeld had this great joke where he was like, they did a survey, and the number one fear was public speaking, and the number two fear was death. So at a funeral, people would rather be the guy in the box rather than the guy giving the eulogy.
Oh man, it's true. It's true. People.
I mean, I think for me, here's what happened. So when I was like doing like, if I ever had to give a presentation and I wasn't prepared, I would feel nervous. But once I had the material ready, I was fine. So with stand-up comedy, you've written everything out. I mean, I guess there's the worry that something's not going to work, but you just got you got to not care so much about making people laugh every single time, and just look more at like the work that goes into it. You just gotta be, okay, well that didn't work, so I'm just gonna scratch it out and make an adjustment. You know, it's like fine tuning a car.
Have you ever?
That's what you gotta look at. You gotta look at like the shows like that where you're like, okay, I'm just working it out. I'm going to the gym.
Have you had any big bombs?
No, I'm really good. So Uh,
Well,
nothing crazy where it was like, oh, this, like I was like in desperate need of like crushing that night, and then I got nothing. But I've certainly had nights where I came off the stage and I was like, man, fuck, that sucked,
yeah. Well, I guess you just, you never know who the crowd's going to be, so you could get up there and, you have a joke that you think is going to be funny and usually lands, and then you tell it and people don't really react the way you were expecting, kind of like when you give
Yeah.
yourself that like beat for laughter or whatever, like when the punchline comes and you don't get the reaction you're looking for, and you're like, wait, did I say it wrong? Or like, what's going on? Why isn't everybody laughing?
Yeah, that happens. And you also think like, oh man, was I wrong? Like, is this not a funny idea? And then you just got to look at it like, okay, for some reason I think this is funny. I'm just not I'm not translating it right. So then you got to just kind of work on like, okay, what do I have to say to make this come out the way that I want it to? That's pretty much it.
There's a thing in improv where if you're failing, fail big, like fail big, make it a big like production of failure, and then that's usually like a good way to recover when you're on stage, because people will like laugh at you failing or whatever. Is there something like that in stand up?
Nah, because people look at improv differently since it's a somewhat in the moment kind of thing. With stand up, I don't think people necessarily think you're just going up there and riffing these days. You know, I think that everyone realizes this is a prepared monologue. So I think you just have to maybe either kind of rush past it and be like, yeah, y'all weren't supposed to laugh at that yet anyway, so let me just go on. Or you can acknowledge it and be like, I thought that was going to be funny, but y'all proved me wrong. So, I'll never do that again.
Do you do any shows for military? Have you done any like touring for military, USO?
A little, nothing on that level. I did some shows down in like the Pensacola, Florida area. And there was like a couple bases around there that I did shows for. But no, I haven't had the pleasure of doing like an armed forces entertainment. What is it, AFES?
Yeah, something like that. Armed forces entertainment stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't had the opportunity to do that or USO. And USO is hard, man. Like they want celebrities.
Yeah.
They want bigger names and stuff. So that one would be a hard one for me to get on. But I would jump on it in a minute. I'd go back to Iraq to entertain troops. I'd go wherever they ask me to. I think it would be a great way for me to give back.
It would be pretty fun. It would be pretty fun. It would be good to go like to Iraq and just do like a performance thing or whatever, go to Afghanistan.
Also, I got to be honest, because sometimes like I perform in San Diego a lot. And so military people come out to those shows, and every now and then you'll get like a colonel or a lieutenant colonel who I'm like the same age now, which is real fucking weird to me. And so for me to be able to just be like, yeah, dude, to a colonel, I kind of like that. So I'm more than willing to do fucking military shows just to talk to an officer like he's just another bro.
Yeah, and I'm sure the average dude would love that too, where you like, you as a former Marine enlisted would go up there in front of a bunch of enlisted and be like, "What's up, sir? You good, bro?"
Yeah.
Does everyone have your fucking permission to laugh or some shit like that? People would love it.
Yeah. Permission to have fun.
Denied. Are you?
Yeah, damn it.
What's the dream?
Man, I want to be one of the most famous comedians in the world. I'd love to have a TV show or something like that. But I'd also be okay with just making a living doing stand-up comedy. But I don't want to settle at that. I want fame. I'm not posting stupid fucking TikTok videos because I enjoy it. Like I'm trying to build up those fans. So that's really it, man. I just want to be as well known of a comedian as possible, and I just want to be. I want to make it to the highest level possible. I'd like to be a Tom Segura level comedian, a Chris D'Elia level comedian without the teenager fucking, you know?
My wife, you know, and I talk sometimes, and I talk about.
That's good. I think that's important in a marriage is that you talk to your wife sometimes.
We schedule once a week. We chat, and she asks me, like when I'm doing stuff, she's like, and I'm talking about getting views or whatever, and she's like, well, why do you want to get views? Do you want like to be famous or whatever? And I'm like, well, I want as many people to hear this stuff as possible because I believe it's stuff that makes people happier, you know, or like helps people out or something, you know? So I'll do things to get views. I'll like put out more YouTube videos. I'll put out more Instagram stuff. I'll go live more. I'll, put out more clips and stuff. And I'm going to try to make it fun. And, maybe I'll start doing TikTok. And that's not because I'm desperate for fame, but I do want the people to be paying attention to me because I think that I believe in what I'm doing is something that people would enjoy to hear. And so it's not fame to like go look how famous I am. It's like I want people to hear me because I believe in the mission of what I'm doing is to spread kind of happiness and motivation and inspiration to other veterans, you know?
Yeah, I mean, for me, like one of the coolest things was I had a video on Facebook that went pretty viral. It got like 7 million views.
Whoa.
And I started getting like messages from people. And this one woman was like, my husband served in Iraq. And we watched that video last night. And it was the first time that I'd seen him laugh like that since he got back. So, like, I just want you to know what you're doing is very important. And like, I don't go out with that mentality. That's not my mindset. It's like, I'm doing this for the people. But to receive that message from somebody, that was a very moving experience and like made me feel like, okay, I mean, I don't think what I'm doing is important, but to know that to some people it is, I think that's pretty fucking cool.
Yeah, what I'm doing, I think it's as important as people believe that it is to them, but I get emails once in a while and it's like, hey, I heard this episode. I really appreciated what this person had to say. I went and checked them out, or it motivated me to do this or see things in a different way or whatever, made me think about this. And then I'm like, okay, cool. This is that's what I'm looking for as far as like the impact I'm hoping to make some people. And then if there's somebody out there who wants to do comedy, I hope they listen to this one and go, I'm going to fucking do comedy because, I heard Mitch talk about it. It sounds awesome. So I hope people are getting something out of it. Some people ask me all the time about starting a podcast too. And they're like, how do you do a podcast? Like, how do you host it? And I'm like, just say whatever's honestly on your mind, Like, don't try to say the perfect thing. Don't try to think too hard about it. Just let the conversation go. Say whatever you're honestly thinking. Don't try to say the perfect thing. Just the perfect thing to say is whatever's honestly on your mind.
Absolutely.
I think that's probably
don't say anything
too.
That'll get you in trouble later.
Yeah, which is like fucking everything. So, hey, what's that Facebook video that you were just talking about? Where can people find that?
If you just type in Mitch Burrow on Facebook under the search thing, they'll have videos, and it'll be one of the first ones that comes up. I think it's titled like Funniest Marine or something. It's hosted on the Comedy Juice Facebook page. I think I'm wearing like a white shirt. It should make it pretty easy to find.
All right, cool.
Just Mitch Burrow on Facebook, and then go to videos. Not my page. Just go to videos under the search, and you'll see it. It's got like 7-point-something million views.
Okay, I'm gonna look that up. I'm gonna link that at this point in the podcast too.
Served in the Marine Corps. Yeah, I like that. 5 people were like, "Yay!" The rest of you were like, "That don't look like the Marine Corps." I'm originally from Georgia. Thanks. Unfortunately, I've been living in Seattle for the last 7 years, and what I learned is that being from the South is awesome if you're still in the South, right? And here's what bothers me the most about it. My mom is from England. She has like a full-on British accent. Do y'all understand what I'm saying? Like if she would have just talked to me a little bit more, I could have had an accent where no matter what I was saying, y'all would be like, this is going to be the most important thing we hear all day. But instead, with a Southern accent, I could be explaining quantum physics to y'all. Going into the multi-world interpretation, which is like for every situation, there's a different outcome, and that outcome happened, and it spawned off a separate universe. And you'd be like, yeah, but it's just a theory. And I'd correct you and say, I think what you meant is that it's just a hypothesis, which is a suggested explanation, whereas a theory is a substantiated explanation based off of a proven hypothesis. And then you'd say, I think you probably have a GED and don't like minorities. Yeah. And then you would win that argument. I served in the Marine Corps. Yeah. I like that 5 people were like, yay. The rest of you were like, that don't look like the Marine Corps. I served in Iraq. I don't know if anyone else here has ever been to war. But, no, just me? I'm the only hero? Okay. Going to war is not the hard part. Coming back is where it gets weird because everybody wants to ask you questions. Like as soon as I got back from Iraq, everybody was like, oh, my God, Mitch, when you were in Iraq, did you ever shoot anybody? And I was like, nah, man, relax. I was a helicopter mechanic. They were like, oh, thank God you never killed anybody. I was like, I never said I was a good helicopter mechanic. I don't know why people laugh at that joke. Troops died in that joke. That's like, I do miss being in shape, though. That was the best part about the military. Like, I didn't want to get fat. I got out in 2003. Nobody yelled at me to run 3 miles every day at McDonald's is convenient. These are the consequences of my actions. And I want to lose the weight. But it just feels like the world is against you and you've gained a bunch of weight. Right? Like the other day, I stepped on the scale. It was almost 300 pounds. I was like, man, I've got to do something about this. And when I say almost, I mean 305, all right? Like it's not. So I was like, that's it, man. Today is the day that I make a change. So I went to the grocery store. I loaded the cart up with fruits and vegetables, everything healthy. And when I went to check out, my credit card got declined. I got home, I checked my email, Capital One declined the charge because they suspected fraudulent activity. But I miss traveling the most when I was in the military. Coolest place I ever went to was Thailand. They sent me to Thailand when I was 19 years old. That is the biggest mistake that the government can make. Because when an adult goes to Thailand, they'll come back and they'll be like, yeah, they have beautiful beaches. I came back from Thailand at 19. I was like, they have awesome strip clubs. And I don't mean that because the women are beautiful. I mean it because, like, they do magic tricks, right? Like, you'll go there, you'll see a woman pull 40 yards of a handkerchief out of a place that handkerchiefs aren't supposed to be. You give them $1, they'll give you 4 quarters back. It's pretty crazy. But when I was in Thailand, I saw the most amazing thing I've ever seen in my life. I saw a woman pull a live canary out of her area, right, or her canaria, as I like to call it now. Look, you got to understand, I don't mean like she just pulled it out, set it on the table, and then walked away. It flew around the room, all right? It was the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen in my life. It was like a Disney movie came out of there. It was amazing. So when I saw that, I did the only thing that made sense to me. I went home with her. Now, look, I know a lot of you are judging me right now. You're like, that sounds like a good way to get a canarial disease. But you have to understand where I was at this point in my life. I was 19 years old. It was 1999. And all I did with my free time was watch the History Channel. And it's not like now with bad shows like American Pickers and Pawn Stars. They had real documentaries. And my favorite was about these coal miners in the 1930s. And what they would do whenever they would go down into a mine, they would take a live canary with them. And as long as that bird didn't die, they knew that cave was safe. So I knew that cave was safe. You guys have been great. My name is Mitch Burrow.
And you've got a website, right? MitchBurrow.com?
I do. It's very out of date, but you know, you can you can go to it and find like the links to my social media stuff.
Yeah, I went on there and I was watching your videos of your stand-up, and it's all very funny. I told like half of your mandatory fun jokes already, or referenced them, so I don't want to steal I don't want to tell all your jokes on the ScuttleButt Show, so people go and check you out. So do you have a YouTube channel too?
I do, and I'll normally post like 1 minute, like I post short stand-up clips on there that people can see, and then I'll even move some of the little TikTok videos over there as well. Yeah, I try and post. So I think once comedy is going, Instagram and TikTok are the things to follow me on, because those, like I post like a lot of stand-up clips on there whenever I get them recorded, because I ain't getting a fucking Netflix special, so I got to give the people some way to see what I'm doing.
Yeah, well, I think it's great now that you can have a YouTube channel, you can have a TikTok and an Instagram and all that, and post your own content up there, and people can go see it. So you don't necessarily need a Netflix special. You got and you're on Vet TV. You have a Vet TV special, so that's pretty big.
I am on Vet TV. I got to share the spotlight with, I believe it was 6 other veterans of the different branches of the military. I think the only one, we didn't have a Coast Guard representative, but that doesn't really count anyway.
Yeah, they'll have to go on the Department of Homeland Security episode.
Yeah. So that was a lot of fun to do that. I think we had 2 Marines, some Navy and Air Force on that series. But like, people should do it. It's $5 for a month subscription. If nothing else, you pay $5 and you watch all those episodes, you get some good stand-up.
Yep. I definitely encourage everyone.
Vet TV has some pretty great humorous shows on there, so I suggest people check it out.
Yeah, I like The Shop. I like Devil Docs. I like Mandatory Fun is my favorite. I love stand-up. I love stand-up comedy. So watching you guys on there was just amazing. You got any do you have any like inspirations as far as stand-up goes, or as far as like veteran famous people?
I mean, so for me, I don't know how many people know this, but Rob Riggle was an officer in the Marine Corps, and the more you like read into him, you're like, man, he's a hilarious comedic actor and comedian, but he was a badass Marine. So Rob Riggle is someone you can look up, like if you're like transferring from the armed forces to the entertainment industry, he's a good guy to look into. Adam Driver did some really great shit. I think the success that he's had coming from the Marine Corps is awesome. But then like just stand-up comedians, Bill Burr's my number 1 of all time. And then Chappelle, he's the GOAT, man. He released like a 30-minute thing in response to the protests and Black Lives Matter, the killing of George Floyd, and it wasn't hilarious, but I can listen to that man talk. He comes to the Comedy Store a lot, and whether or not you walk away going, that was the funniest show you watch, you will be listening to him the entire time. He has a way to captivate people, and I think that's very powerful.
Yeah, I watched it, and I agree with that. Anytime Chappelle is saying anything, you just watch and kind of go like you're watching a historic event, whenever he gets up there and speaks. His viewpoints and perspectives on things are amazing. And he's got a great perspective. He's got a great attitude on an outlook, and kind of like an objectivity that is lacking in a lot of places. Because a lot of people just say the same shit because they know it'll get, when it comes to current events or political stuff, they'll just say the same shit because they know it gets laughs. But he actually takes some deep thought into it, which I appreciate quite a bit.
Absolutely. And another thing, like with Bill Burr, Joe Rogan is like the king of media right now. He's his podcast, he sold it to Spotify for $100 million over the next 3 years. It's one of the biggest deals there is. And he has such an impact on people's careers just by having them on his show. He's a big part of stand-up comedy. But what I will say is that I feel like stand-ups won't take Joe to task at times. And one of the most recent guests he had was Bill Burr, and Joe was like, "Oh, you really want to see people walking around with masks on?" And Bill was just like, "I'm not gonna fucking do this with you, Joe. I'm not gonna sit here with me not having a medical degree and you not having a medical degree and tell people they should or shouldn't wear masks. I watch the news every 2 weeks. If they say we need to wear masks, then we fucking need to wear masks." And like, Burr may not be as famous or as rich as Rogan, but he is as respected, and like him taking jabs at Joe like that, Joe was just laughing, and like that just shows you the kind of power that Bill Burr has in comedy, where the most famous person in comedy at this point was just like, "All right, you got me," you know. Like it was refreshing.
Yeah, well, I think you kind of nailed it, where it's like, if you're sitting there talking to Joe Rogan, you don't want to push back on him too hard, because you know, kind of like he's got the biggest platform that anybody listens to. You being on there is like, you want to be you want to like be in his good favor. But I agree, man. Everyone should speak their mind on things and what they honestly think is true, and not just, you know, buy into like one side or the other on opinions on things.
And it's hard. I mean, I'll admit it. I'm not famous by any means, but I went to a Black Lives Matter protest, and I was very moved by what I saw, and I posted something about it, and I lost 100 followers. But you got to just, you know, I don't give a fuck. If that's what's going to make you unfollow me, then I'm not the guy for you anyway. You know, I believe in being true to who you are. I think that's important.
Yeah. Maybe we'll get on here another time with a panel of people and talk about all that stuff and some more of that current events. And
yeah, dude, let's fucking Fox News it up, dog. Let's
do it.
Fucking have 4 different screens growing and everyone just yelling over each other.
Perfect. I love it. All right, brother. Hey, we've been going for about an hour and 15 minutes. I usually try to wrap it up around this time. You got anything you want to? So you're all over on all the social medias at Mitch Burrow, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook. You have a bitchburrow.com. You're on Mandatory Fun on Vet TV. I encourage people to go check you out. You're hysterical. You've had me laughing this entire time. You got anything you want to let people know about?
Hey, man, the ScuttleButt's one of the funnest podcasts I've done, man. This was a great time. Thank you for having me on.
Oh,
That's
shit.
it.
I appreciate that very much. We'll do this again soon.
All right, buddy. Thank you.
All right, brother.